want to kill our friends, we don't want to hurt them. And that's just part of this ever like evolving theory of the SCA, but it's a wonderful organization.
There's just something about it, and I think that's what it is. It's just that love for that battle, that aspiring to something else, and then going and having a beer with your friends afterwards. You know?
The Kingdom of the West is an organization dedicated to the recreation of medieval fighting techniques and styles. It is a sect of the Society of Creative Anachronism, or SCA, which has different divisions spanning America, Europe, Australia, and Japan. The SCA is broken into 19 kingdoms, each of which are made up of principalities that are further divided into baronies. Every Thursday night at 7 o'clock, Kingdom of the West members from the Bay Area flock to the Galleria parking garage in downtown Santa Cruz to brawl with opponents, honing their skills for upcoming tournaments, festivals, or simply for the sheer thrill.
There we go, nice. It's been up here in this particular location, I want to say for about 15, no, more like 10 years at this point now, that this practice has been. Every Thursday at 7. Be it rain or shine. Yeah, well, we're in a 3-story parking garage, you know. When it's raining, we just go down a level so we stay dry.
The SCA's roots can be traced back to May 1st, 1966, when a group of college students got together
In like Berkeley, Oakland area about 40 years ago.
in a
Protest of the modern era. And so a bunch of people got together and got dressed up in costumes, and they went parading up and down one of the main streets in Berkeley, and then they had a barbecue.
The parties repeated, and the ideas of the society proliferated, eventually leading to the development of the original 3 kingdoms, the West, East, and Middle. Although not initially the primary focus, fighting soon became a large component of recreation, eventually gaining the spotlight of SCA values.
It's all about, you know, enthusiasm and a love, and kind of a romanticized image of what medieval and Renaissance and everything was. Because it most certainly was not this chivalrous. If you look at true historical fighting styles, it was none of this like honor. I mean, it was all about honor, but you'd go up and you kick someone in the balls. Like that was a completely legitimate fighting style.
A majority of it is homemade. There are people who do sell custom-made armor, and so there's internet resources and stuff for it. A lot of it is stuff that we've all learned how to make. I've learned how to make leather armor. And most of my stuff is made by myself. A lot of these guys who are fighting in these kits put a lot of love and blood and sweat into putting them together, and a lot of it is just historical research. Most of what's out here is actually as close as possible to accurate historically that we can find. A lot of us spend a lot of time researching historical digs and information that's released through lots of different resource sites to build stuff that looks as close to as we used to.
So I'm wearing armor that is appropriate for a 14th century knight, which is transitional armor. So this is when you started seeing people going from mail into what you consider plate armor. So all of my armor is leather with plates riveted on the inside.
Mine is hardened leather, and it literally is just stamped leather that's been boiled to hardness, and held together with duct tape apparently. Broken strap, but the upper body is actually period patterned off of a late Third Crusade Persian style.
So I have a leather vest called a coat of plates with plates riveted to the inside. I have splinted cuisse, which is the thigh armor, greaves, band braces. I have little spades that are hard to see under here. The helmet I'm wearing is called a bassinet. It's a clap-based bassinet, so when I close it, see, that's what the visor looks like. I'm fighting with a heater, which is kind of a traditional 14th century shield, and a one-handed sword. Mostly because I'm training. My primary weapon is actually a two-handed sword, but I'm going to go beat up on my squire in a little bit. So we're going to be working on some stuff.
So it has They called them carina, which is the type of armor that they wore. They're highly decorated. They're really flexible, so you get a lot of movement in them because they're just sewn together, so you can get as much body movement out of them as possible without being restricted by extra weight or stiff plates.
So the weapons for our particular combat sport are made out of rattan. It's the same stuff they make eskrima sticks out of. So it's solid, but it's a fibrous wood that will bend and kind of mush out instead of break when it finally goes. But it is solid. So it's full speed, full contact. If hits are too light, they actually don't count. So it's a little bit more energetic than nuclear fighting.
Roughly 50 pounds or so. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, full plate can go up to 100. You know, because you're wearing 16 gauge steel.
Fighting is the biggest component of SCA culture, and it is the centerpiece of all gatherings. Gatherings are usually structured as tournaments, the winner receiving some type of prize or a promotion in the SCA hierarchy.
The SCA is based on a martial power structure. The way you attain rank in the SCA is by winning tournaments. To be king, we have 3 crown tournaments a year, and everybody's allowed to enter. It's an open crown list. It's a double elimination tournament, and if at the end of the day you end up winning that tournament, then you are king for 4 months.
The 3 most popular forms of Renaissance fighting are tournament fighting, a one-on-one battle, melee fighting, a brawl between teams of 2 or 4, and war.
Which is incredible because it can go anywhere from 100 guys out on a field doing this to some of the big wars. There's 4,000 or 5,000 guys out there doing it.
This footage is of the 2011 Pennsic War. The Pennsic War is an annual war between the East and Middle Kingdoms. It began in 1976 and has been happening every year since. 2011 marked the 40th Pennsic War.
One of the best battles I ever had here was with a gentleman named Nightshade, which you may or may not have heard about, but he's well known in this area.
One of my heroes is a duke named Fabian. Growing up, he was one of the gods of the SCA, and this last year we were both fortunate enough to be flown out to Australia to teach.
He and I were just practicing one day, this was a few years ago, and it was so Princess Bride-esque, like that whole idea of like the spinning shots and the landing and the just dancing away from one another.
And then we ended up fighting in their big tournament called Providura, and we ended up meeting in the finals.
And he is just stealth, and he followed me the entire way.
And we fought 30 rounds. You had to fight everybody. It was a meat grinder. So we fought 30 rounds. It was getting dark.
And most people, unless they're a white scarf, don't last long against Nightshade, and that fight lasted about 10 minutes. And it was just like, yes!
And so now I'm out there with one of my heroes fighting him in the finals. And it was just one of those awesome fights where you've got these 2 really high-end fighters. It was just like in the samurai movies, right? Everybody's like, nope, nope, pow, and then somebody was dead. And it was just beautiful and pure and very just, I couldn't have scripted it better.
And then he stabbed me in the throat and I was dead. But it was a wonderful fight.
So I entered a crown tournament. There are about 60 people fighting in it, and I ended up winning the tournament, and so I became king. And when you're king in the SCA, you are half ceremonial head and half kind of business head. We also award peerages, and the peerage that you see out on this field is knighthood. You can become a knight in the SCA. So when you are knighted, you get a white belt, which mine's a little grubby because of my fighting belt, but white belt is representative of your chivalry, so it's white. You also wear a chain. I'm not wearing mine tonight because I didn't put it on when I was fighting, and that's representative of your fealty to the king and to the people. And then most of us, although none of us here are wearing them when we're fighting, you actually wear spurs, which is a symbol of horses, because in historically period, knights were elite horse warriors. So you wear your spurs, your white belt, and your chain, and those are
The SCA, although originating in California, has become an international organization. SCA kingdoms extend to Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and Asian countries. We asked Santiago about the international scene, but focused mostly on South Korea and Japan because, although they are separated from California by the vast Pacific Ocean, they are still included in the Kingdom of the West.
Those places we refer to as the Far West, and they are what we call Palatine baronies. And what that means essentially is that they are baronies in much the same way that Darkwood is a barony, but instead of going through the process of essentially populace choice to see who's going to be the next Baron and Baroness, they actually fight for it. They have tourneys to fight for it, just the same way as the principalities have tourneys to fight for Prince and Princess, and the kingdom has a tourney to fight for King and Queen.
One of our own, Luke, decided to try SCA fighting.
First time fighting, I'm pretty excited. It's a lot to think about.
Corinne gave Luke a brief run-through on safety, technique, and strategy, and put him up against one of the best rapier fighters in Darkwood, Kevin, to give him the full experience.
Retreat. 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 You got basic parries, right? It's like a clock. You're making a J. Control of your blade, point at your opponent.
This is hard! I found it very difficult, and it was definitely a lot harder than it looked. It was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Although fighting is a huge component of the SCA, the community is a major piece of it.
I consider everybody here my family. They're great.
The real value of the organization comes from the society, the group of like-minded people with a passion for recreating the beauty of our past.